graphic designers. We are now ready to start taking a look at using Photoshop. So this tutorial is going to show you what you need to do to learn some of the basics of Photoshop. And to start, the project that we're going to do for this is based on Andy Warhol. This is a art piece of Andy Warhol. So he was an artist who created these iconic Marilyn Monroe pop art pictures. He also did some artwork with Campbell's Soup Can and some other things. So these are just examples of the type of work that he is known for that other people have emulated. You can see that people who try to sell copies of his work, some of it can be pretty expensive, such as that. So he is a good person for us to do our Photoshop work with. So one of the things that he did with this type of work is take an image of somebody and then kind of change the coloring with it. So that is what we will do. You will need to decide what you want for your subject. So this is something could be a cartoon character. This is a butterfly, a cat. So there's all sorts of different things that you can do for your subject. What I am going to do a search for, so somebody who I have become very respectful of lately is Greta Thunberg. If you don't know her, she is a 16-year-old Swedish activist who is highly involved in helping to support and science as far as climate change. So let me show you. I'm going to try to find an image of her that I want. So you will just type in a Google search for what you want. I don't want her all angry. She did speak at the UN not that long ago. So I want to get a good image of her that'll work. And I've kind of done this before, but I'll show you what I did for her. I chose this picture before. This is her Twitter profile image. So I like this one here. So the one that once you find an image that you like, you're going to do a right click on the image and do Save Image As. And we want to send this to our desktop. So make sure that your destination is your desktop. And you can name it if you want to, but I know what it's going to be. So I'm going to come back to my desktop, and there it is there. So let's go ahead and open up Photoshop. So you want to make sure that if it's not open in your menu bar down there, that you go to your launch pad and find it. And you can see this is what I've already been working on. So I'll show you how we get started with it. So we're going to create new. And if this is your first time logging into Photoshop, just like you did with Adobe Illustrator, you might have to put your school email address and log in there. And then it'll drop you to the North Kansas City site, and you'll have to do it again. So just make sure that you are logging into it. So when you get Photoshop started, it's going to give you options for what you want to create. So we're just going to do photo, but we're going to custom our photo, customize our dimensions. And we will actually start with 2 different documents. So on this first one, let's title it PopArt 1. You can title it whatever you want. Just know that you are going to have 2 of these. And we want the first one to be 8.5, so 8.5 by 11.5 inches. Oh no, sorry, 11, 8.5 by 11. And so it should be where it is taller than it is wide, so that's a portrait orientation. And we want our resolution to just be 200 pixels per inch. So you just want to make sure those settings are pixels per inch, not pixels per centimeter. Your color mode should automatically be in RGB. That's red, green, and blue, which is what our standard colors are that we use in graphic design. Some people use the CMYK, but we are going to do RGB. And our background should just be white for right now. So we have PopArt number 1, 8.5 by 11. When you have that in 200 pixels per inch for your resolution, hit create. And you see that there's your document. We're going to go ahead and come over here to do our second document. So we go up here to File, New. And this document, again, we're going to do a photo, but we are going to specify our dimensions. So this one I'm going to name PopArt number 2. And I want this one to be exactly half of the size of the other one. So it was 8.5. So half of 8.5 is 4 1/4, so 4.25. And half of 11 is 5.5. And it should still be where it is taller than it is wide. So that's our portrait orientation. If you have it the other way, we call this landscape. And let's go ahead and change that resolution to the same as before. So that's 200 pixels per inch. And then everything else we keep the same. So as soon as you have all of your dimensions in place, hit create. And you'll notice here's our PopArt number 2 on this tab, and if I switch over, that's PopArt number 1. Right now they look identical, but you'll see here in a little bit how that's going to change. All right, so we should have our image that we're going to use is on our desktop. So we want to get to that image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my Photoshop main screen over a little bit just till I can find my image on my desktop, and there it is. So with Photoshop, you want to make sure that whatever image you're putting in, it needs to be in a JPEG format, file format. So it could end in JPEG or it could end in JPG. So JPEG or just JPG. You could also have one, a better quality image is if it ends in PNG, that's a PNG file, but most of what you're going to get from Google is going to be a JPEG. So when you have that, you're going to grab it with your mouse and you're just going to drag it over and put it into your artboard. And right now you can't do anything with it because you have to tell the computer to accept this image. So there are two ways that you can do that. You could either come up here to where this check mark is and check that, or you could just hit enter on your keyboard, which is what I did. And now I'm going to move my board back so I can see all of my tools over here. So this is going to be similar to Illustrator, but there are quite a few differences that we're going to learn about. So when you have your image in place, you'll notice that you have layers automatically for Photoshop. If you remember from Illustrator, we had to put our layers in. Photoshop will automatically add you layers every time you put a new element into your document. So we have a layer that is just our background and then a layer that is our image. So right now, you'll notice this thumbnail image of our image, and then there's this, looks like a little piece of paper with a rectangle there and a hole there. That tells us that right now this image is essentially like a screenshot. So we can't do anything to it at this point. We can't convert it or alter it other than size. So we want to tell the computer to rasterize this image. And rasterization is just a way where the computer will convert all of what we see here into individual pixels. And because we set our resolution to 200 pixels per inch, every inch of space that we have will be 200 pixels worth. So to get our image rasterized, over here on this layer, where you see the name of it, where it says images, you must do a right click where it says the name. If you do a right click there on the thumbnail, notice that you get different options. We do not want these options right now. What we want are these options. So I'm going to scroll down, and there you see rasterized layer. So when you click on that, notice that that little piece of paper thing is now gone because the computer went ahead and converted that image into actual pixels that we can manipulate. And you can see that. So if I do that Command plus that we did before, and I keep going, you can see each individual pixel, each square. Just pretty cool. That's as close as we can get. That's as much magnification as we can get. Zoom out. There we go. So now what we're going to do is get rid of this background here because I just want to have my main subject, which is Greta. So let me show you what you need to do for that. Over here in your toolbar, I want you to find this one here, which is our quick selection tool. So it's very similar to what we had to use in Illustrator. We used our selection tool a lot and our direct selection tool a lot. So in Photoshop, we want the quick selection tool, and you see that over here, the shortcut command is just W for that. So I'm going to click on that, and up here at the top now are our controls for this tool. So right now it's going to grab pixels because I have it where it's adding pixels, but you can make it where you're getting rid of pixels or not selecting pixels. And you can change the size of how many pixels it's grabbing at a time. You can change the spacing of those pixels and how hard the brush is as far as what it's looking for in the pixels. But I'm just going to keep it at 30 for now. And what I want to do is just select Greta. Okay, so once I start clicking with my left mouse and I hold that mouse button down, you see that it starts to grab pixels. And these little dotted lines, we actually call those marching ants, because if you look at it, it looks like you have ants just marching around in a circle. So those will be referenced as a marching ant or marching ants. And I'm going to keep coming around holding down my left mouse button, and I'm grabbing all of these pixels. So if you notice up here, that's part of the background. I don't want those pixels, so I'm actually going to click over here. And if I just click, it expands my marching ants around. Get a little bit of her hair there. And I want to zoom in, so I'm doing Command plus. And you can see I don't want those pixels right there. So you have two options. You can come up here and make it so that it is minus or subtract, or just hold down your Alt button. So remember in Illustrator, whenever we were doing that Shift M so that we could delete part of a section, we would change it where if it was plus, we held down Alt and it made it minus. So it's kind of the same thing. And I'm going to click over here to get rid and tell the computer I do not want it to grab those pixels. And this is where if you want to change your brush size, something smaller. I'm going to scroll up with my mouse. All right, I want to get rid of this. I'm going to hold down Alt and just keep clicking. You can keep clicking, or you could just hold it down and move it. That's what I'm doing right now. And just say, no, computer, I do want those pixels. So I'm going to click on that. Come over here, adjust my screen, and say, no, don't want those. And you can really nitpick. You can get it down, like I said, to the pixel level and tell the computer if you want a pixel or not. So I could even get those strands of hair if I want to, but I am not going to be that nitpicky because it will take too long. So I'm actually going to get rid and kind of smooth it out a bit. Okay, now let me zoom back out. There we go. So now what I want to tell the computer is that I want to keep Greta and get rid of everything else. So you notice my marching ants are going just around Greta. I want them instead to do the opposite and go around Greta the other way towards the background. So to do that, once you have your subject selected, come up here to select and then do inverse. Inverse means opposite. So now you notice that all my marching ants are around this way. So I'm going to get rid of the background now by doing Command and then X. and that just means cut. So I could come up here to edit, and I could do cut this way, but there's our shortcut command, Command X. So if I do Command X, notice that everything is gone except for Greta, and that's exactly what I wanted. So now I'm going to come up here to your Move tool. Notice that that shortcut is V. Okay, that's very important. Last year with Photoshop, they always updated every year and they always change things with it. And this year, one of the changes that they did is that when you go to move, Photoshop will make sure that your aspect ratio doesn't change, so it doesn't stretch out the image as you're moving it. Last year, what you had to do is to make sure that that was maintained as you'd hold down Shift, but that's not the case anymore. So now, if I move my image to fill this space, it doesn't change my aspect ratio. Watch what happens when I hold down Shift. So I'm going to hold down Shift and do that again and see how it distorts it when I'm moving it in and out. I don't want that. So let me do Command Z. Command Z still works in Photoshop, and they actually changed that because last year you could only undo one step back. Now you can do Command Z multiple times if you need to go back several steps. So that was a pain last year, but now they fixed it. All right, so anyway, what I want you to do is resize your subject so it fills up pretty much all of this space. Okay, so I need to change Greta. It doesn't matter if you're leaving off part of the person's clothes or whatever it is. You want most of your space to be, I need to zoom out a little bit, there we go, to take up this square. You do want to leave some background because that's part of the fun. If you notice on here, the background gets colored. We're going to do some fun stuff with that. So you do want to have some of your background visible. I think that looks good. So now we got to tell the computer that we accept this. So your options are again to either click on the check mark or to hit enter. So we do want to keep to that. And then I just clicked on my art space or the background area to get that away. Here is one tip. If you have sorry, I got to didn't know if you guys saw that background image. Let me try that one more time because you will probably mess up. Notice that I don't have any layers selected right now. So if I go to choose my quick selection tool and I get that that circle with a slash through it, the computers tell me, hey, you don't have anything selected to tell me what to work on. So if I come over here and highlight that layer, boom, now it'll work. Anyway, another thing I want to teach you is if you have your marching ants and you're done, you want to get rid of them because now I can go to my selection tool, but my marching ants are still there. The secret to get rid of your marching ants is do Command D. Okay, D as in dog, Command D, and then that gets rid of them. All right, so I have Greta the way that I want her. But remember, I had to change the size, and you can see this is extra stuff that is going outside of my artboard, and so we need to cut that and get rid of it. So to do that, we're going to come over here and use our crop function, our crop tool. So that's this one here. So you click on that, and then I'm just going to hit enter, and it shows you the sections that are outside of our art space. So I have it, you can even do it this way, but I actually want it to be exactly the same size as my art space. And then just tell the computer, yes, I want you to commit to that crop. So now I shouldn't have anything extra outside of my art space. If you do, it'll kind of mess it up for our next step. Another cool thing is if you know that we can take off or hide, toggle the visibility on our layers. It's the same for Photoshop as it is Illustrator. And if I toggle that background off, you notice all that checkers? So that just shows you that I did indeed get rid of that background. And that's all that I have for Greta is just Greta. Okay, so now let's get ready for some fun stuff. We need to send this image over to this document. So Photoshop will let you do that by clicking on our layers. So I want this layer of Greta, and if I hold down Shift, it allows me to maintain that layer and grab this background layer. We want both of them. And then I'm going to do a right click here on the layers. Again, it has to be on the layers. It cannot be on the thumbnail. And we're going to come up here to where it says duplicate. Okay, so just one more time, make sure both layers are active. Do a right click, duplicate layers, and our destination is PopArt number 1. So we change that from PopArt 2 to PopArt 1 and hit OK. And switch over and voila, there it is. So hopefully you can see that this one image that we did is a fourth of our entire space, which is good because we're doing something like this. So we want 4 of them. So we are going to duplicate these guys right here, and you can say duplicate layer, and you can send it to this document, but there's an easier way. We're going to do it the easier way. So making sure both the image and the background are selected, we're going to do Command J. So I did that, and it made a copy of both. You can see it, image copy, background copy. I need 4 total, so I'm going to do it again. That's number 3. And one more time, now I have 4. So they are there. And I can grab, these 2 are highlighted. I'm going to grab them and move them over. There you go. Now I need to grab, so I'm going to select this one, hold down Shift and select that one to grab and move it down. And then let's get this one, hold that one, Shift, grab that one, and now I should have my 4 copies. You got to place them in, they should fit perfectly. Okay. Next step is to, let me show you over here. So it looks weird if you have all 4 of them exactly perfect. So what we're going to actually do is these 2 images that are on the right. Notice what happens with my layers when I click on them. It'll click to the correct layer. It's very important in Photoshop that you make sure the right layer is clicked just like it is in Illustrator. But when I click, I want these 2 layers, so I'm going to hold down Shift because I want this one, and I have to find, there it is, that one there. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click that. Oops, it grabbed them both. Let's try again. Let's hold down Command. Shift will do everything in between, but if you hold down Command, it'll do individual. So I want that one, and I got to find that top right. There we go. So now those 2 are selected. Let's come up here to Image, and we are going to do Image Rotation, Flip Horizontal. Oops, you know what? Let me try that again. I had to do Command Z. I think I might have to do one at a time. Let's try one at a time. So Image, Rotation, Flip. I love it when it works the way it's supposed to. Let's try this again. Image. Why is it not working? Because it wants to, I don't want the whole canvas to flip. I just want that one document to flip. So I'm not sure why it is not doing that. All right, give me a second, guys. Let's figure this out. Image. There we go. Image rotation. Well, let's just do it we want it to be not 180. That's going to flip it upside down, or maybe it won't. Yep, that flipped the whole thing down. I don't know why it is doing just that, the whole thing and not that one. I know why, because I was telling you the wrong thing. Okay, guys, sorry about that. It's been a while since I did this. Let's go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. There we go. Now I got it. I just forgot the right way to do it. So let me show you that again. So we're going to go back to this image down here, the bottom right. We want Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. Okay, there we go. So see how it kind of looks a little bit better when you flip it. So it kind of looks more of a mirror image, like what you would see in the mirror. So now that we have that done, let me show you how to change your backgrounds. So let's start. I want this background here. And so I clicked on it and it activated that layer for me. So you could rename these if it'll help you. So just like we did with Illustrator, you can just double click it. I'm going to say this is top left background. That way I know what that one is. And then this one here is top left Greta. This one here I can see is my bottom right background. And that's just my regular background. This one is bottom right Greta. This one is bottom left background. Oops. This one is bottom left Greta. This is top right background. And one more, top right Greta. Okay, that'll help you guys with knowing which ones you're working on. So I'm going to do this one here. And what I want to do is change the background color. So just like it had over here with these. So I want to make sure that the whole thing is selected. And you can use your quick selection tool with that. I'm going to bring the size up and just grab the whole thing. And it will grab, there we go. Notice that it didn't put any marching ants around Greta or anything over here. I mean, I can draw it all the way over here and it'll just zoom to there because I'm only working on this layer. So it will not grab anything else. So now that I have that layer specified, I want to come over here to my color picker. And unlike Illustrator, where we had our inner color and then our outline color, these are, we had the stroke was back there. There is no outline, there is no stroke. So this is really the two colors is when we do our gradient, which I'm going to show you here in a minute. So I'm going to choose a nice blue for this first one. And choose whatever color you want. Hit OK. Then come over here and you're going to look in your tools for your paint bucket tool. Yours might actually be the gradient. Remember, I've been on this before, so my tools are set from what I did previously. So if you see the gradient, you see that drop down button, do your right click, then find your paint bucket. You come over here to what you had selected, click on it, and bam, now my background is blue. And I can do that for all of my other ones. I'm going to do the bottom right. Oops. Click on, oh, I got to accept it. There we go. I did Command D to get off of it. All right, bottom right, use my marching ants, my quick selection tool. Oops, didn't get them all. There we go. Make sure everything's selected. And this time I want to do a green. Ooh, I like that green, so I'm just going to do that. Paint bucket. There we go. And let's see, top's done. Let's do the bottom left. Now I'm going to show you how to do a gradient. So you could do a solid color for each of your 4 sections, or what's really cool is the gradient. So I'm going to choose my two colors for my gradient. I want to do a pink for one of them, and then for the other one, let's do kind of a limeish green. There we go. Now I need to activate my gradient, so I do my right click where the paint bucket is, click on gradient, and this is the preview of what it's going to look like for now, but we can change it. These are the options that we have. We can have it going just horizontally, or excuse me, vertically. You can have changes horizontally, radiant, like a square. Let me show you how to get it on there. So you are going to take your mouse and click where you want it to start, and then drag it where you want it to stop. And you can change the direction, so I can have it going down like this or up like this. And where you release, once you release, uh-oh, I was on the wrong one. Let me try that again. I forgot which one I was doing. There we go. All right. Now, there's my gradient, but you notice a problem? Greta got covered up. So I need to move my layer. So my bottom left Greta is underneath that background. So I'm going to grab this layer, grab her, and I'm going to move her up on top. So remember, just like sheets of glass. Where is she? There she is. Oh, I named that wrong. That's why it's messed up. That should be bottom. Why is it that way? No. Hold on, Command D. I got to get rid of my marching ants. Oh, that's why. I didn't move it to where it was supposed to be. There. Okay, now it's where it's supposed to be. So is that one where it's supposed to be? Yes. So I had the two bottom background layers did move together initially, so that's what that problem was. So there we go. Now you can see. Sorry about that issue, guys. So you see, even me, I still make mistakes with this. So I like that gradient color, but I want to do something on this one. So let me choose a different color. Let's do some red. There we go. And for my second color, something that looks cool, bright purple, yes. And let's go ahead and choose, I'm going to do a radiant one and draw that on there. Oh boy, know what I forgot? Command Z. See if anybody remembers what I did wrong. I didn't grab it. That's why you're supposed to grab it first, because it'll change everything. Now I've got it grabbed. Let's try it again. So you're learning all the things that even I do to mess up. Ooh, that looks so cool. So I like that one. I did that one there. So you guys get to play around with your backgrounds. I do want every single background section of the 4 to be something different and unique. And now let's start doing the cool fun stuff like this. So here I got to make sure I've got the right Greta, correct Greta. I want, what do I want? I want top left Greta. I'm going to start with that one there. All right, so we need to grab Greta, just like we did with our background, otherwise it'll mess up. So I'm going to grab Greta, and for this first one, I'll show you what to do. So just grab Oliver. There we go. Make sure it's all selected. And I'm going to show you a very easy trick for how to change all of this. So come up here to Image, Adjustments, then Hue and Saturation. Make sure your preview button is checked. Okay, now watch. This is what's so fun. Watch as I change that dial. Now you can change all the different aspects of those colors. It changes, it adds different hues to it. So find one that you like. That one looks good, so I'm just going to hit OK. Do Command D to get rid of my marching ants. And now I have that Greta changed. But let's do a little bit more. I don't like that her hair is like that, so I'm just going to grab her hair and only her hair. I don't want any. Hold down Alt if you get something you don't want, and then unclick it Yeah, see, I don't want her face. I just want her hair. So I got to tell the computer, no, I don't want you getting all of this stuff. These are the pixels I want. And it starts to learn, based on the colors that you're going for, what to try to grab. Sometimes you got to change the pixel size though and the hardness. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to change the color of her hair and just her hair, and I'm going to use the paint bucket tool for that. So I'll go ahead and just keep that red. Actually, let's do a little bit of orange. Take my paint bucket tool, find that again, click on it, and look what happens to her hair. Now that might be a little extreme. She's looking kind of like maybe a Ronald McDonald there. So I'm going to do Command Z, and I'm going to lower my opacity. So that is up here. It's a little high, so it wants to cover it 100%. So I just want it to be a little mild. So I'm going to change it to 45. And now you can kind of see the grains of the hair coming through. So that looks a little bit better. You can keep on clicking on areas that didn't get until you have it covered the way you want. The more you click, the more it's going to keep adding layers and layers on. So you got to be wary of that. All right, Command D to get rid of my marching ants. I kind of like that. Now let me show you what else you can do. So let me grab my top right Greta. Grab my selection tool, and I'm going to grab Greta. Okay, now let's use the paintbrush. So we're going to come over here to the paintbrush, and it's just like what it says, it's a paintbrush. So I'm going to increase my size a little bit. There are different things you can do with your paintbrush. You can lower the opacity. There are different brush strokes that you can choose from over here. So I'm just going to do, that's kind of big. Let's do that one there. That's kind of cool. Okay. Let me close that up. And let me choose a color. How about a yellow? There we go. Nice bright yellow. And now I can literally paint on Greta's face. Oh, that opacity is way too high. Let's lower that down just a little bit. And let me just, the more you click, you can just click to get it. You can do strokes. I'm not really happy with how that's turning out. I'm going to do a different brush. I don't like how that one's working. Let's just do a general brush. And I'm just going to paint on Greta there. Give her some funky hair. Notice that it won't really let me paint over here because my marching ants aren't there. I know I'm doing the exact thing I told you guys not to do. Don't worry about making it perfect. But I wanted you guys to see kind of the cool stuff that you can do. So I had to lower my opacity. Can give her more blonde hair. I can go in there. My marching ants went away, so now it's just getting everything. You know what? I'm going to paint her lips. She needs lipstick. So I'm going to give some red, or actually let's do a little bit of pink. And make my brush a little bit smaller. It's a little big. Zoom in a little bit, and then you can go ahead and just paint. If you hold it down, oh, that's like extreme. I'm Command Zing all the way back. I really want that lowered. There we go. Oh, that's better. A little bit of lipstick for Greta. You can do like the Marilyn Monroe, some extreme eyeshadow. There we go. Don't want the opacity, should be good. And let's just give her some eyeshadow. Nice and light. The more I click, the darker it'll be. So I'm just continuing to click on there. And you can kind of see, I don't want to make her look like a clown, but I do want to make her look kind of cool. So I'm going to grab her face again and do my image or adjustment, human saturation. You can change the saturation level too, so you can see what that does. You go, so you're going to black and white. Change it. Each value you change, each time you change it, it's going to change it slightly. Oh, that looks cool. Okay, so that is that. You can play around a little bit more. Be careful with this tool right here. This is the actual eraser, and it will erase pixels. So like you can go in there, oops, got to make sure I'm on my actual layer. I can go in and actually erase pixels. So it is deleting those pixels and just showing the background behind. You could use the blur tool. It's kind of cool. So if you want to, let me get a Greta that I haven't done yet. Go in here and kind of blur. It's kind of hard to see right now. I'll increase the size, but I start blurring that. You can see it starts to blend it together. The more you do it, the more it'll blend. You can do, oops, sorry, sharpen, smudge. This is the sponge tool, so watch. I gotta make sure I'm on Greta. Might have to get my selection tool and then sponge it in. So it's sponging that purple color right there. It's kind of light right now because it flows low. There we go. And let's see what else. You can have a pen tool. You can draw different things. You can put a text tool in and type in there. You can draw shapes. That's what this one is. And with the paint bucket, you've got the gradient. There is another, oh, this one here. I love this tool here. So when you are doing photography work, so my photographers, if they're using this, it's the spot healing tool. So you can see that little red spot. And what the computer does is it tries to look at the pixels that are surrounding. Helps, of course, if you're on that layer. You'd think I'd know that by now. Click on that layer and it'll try to soften and fix areas that got messed up. This isn't doing a very good job. Oh, you know why? I've got to get rid of my marching ants over there. Let me try it again. Let me see if, there we go. Now it's working. It was stuck over there. So if you see, I just run this way and how it's fixing some of the pigmentation on her chin. There we go. And it fixed that little spot on her eye. So it tries to get the surrounding pixels to figure out what should be there. So if I want to get rid of this microphone that she's got, look at that. Just takes it away. I can get rid of that button. Pretty cool. You do have to be careful because sometimes it will do, like it copies it, what it thinks it needs to go, and it's not real sure what to do. So you can see it's trying to copy the hair and part of the skin at the same time, so it goes a little nuts. Go back. And eyedropper tool just picks up a color. So if I wanted a specific color that I want to use for my pen or whatever, then you can do that. You could go in and you can brighten the eyes up. This is really cool. So if I wanted her eyes to be brighter, I could go in there, get my paintbrush, and brighten her eyes a little bit. It's really fun. Maybe change her eye color to a nice pretty green. There's so many cool things you can do in Photoshop here. So that is just the beginning of what we're going to do. I don't think there's really any other tools that you need at this time, because if you're doing photography, you can do red eye, but we're not doing that. So this is just figuring out things that we can do. So what I want you to do, now that I've shown you all the these cool things. I mean, there's so much you guys can play around. There's different filters. You can distort things. You can add noise. Let me show you what that'll do. So if I'm on bottom left Greta still, and I do the distort, pinch, it'll show you. So if I move it, it shows you that it's actually pinching those pixels together, and I can change the amount. Watch what happens. Let's see. All sorts of cool stuff that you guys have. So you can play around with these. Oh, liquefy is really cool too. It'll actually start liquefying, and you can alter that so it changes. So this is one of the reasons why you guys should not believe things you see on TV or magazines, because you know that there are professionals that'll go in and change the way people look. They get rid of all the imperfections, and they can make somebody's lips look bigger or nose look smaller. It's all photoshopped. Okay, so anyway, here's what I want you to do. Find your picture, find whatever object you want to make. If there's somebody you really admire and want to do a pop art with them, you could do yourself, you could do your pet, you could do your favorite drink, bag of chips, I don't care. Put it in and turn it into an Andy Warhol style pop art image. Take a screenshot when you have all 4 images done. You must modify all 4 sections and the backgrounds. Make something cool and show me what you can do with Photoshop. Thanks, guys. Have fun.